Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we decided that today we will not be speaking from the 13th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who knows why? Why? On this planet, there's none. We sent someone to Brahmaloka because on the Brahmaloka, there's 1,000,000 verses instead of 18,000. And he's going to write them down for us. But he hasn't come back yet. It could be that on Brahmaloka there's no suffering. Oh, but Krishna says, Brahma Bhuvanal Loka. From the highest planet to the material, to the lowest, there's suffering where repeated birth and death take place. So that can't be it. The devotees participated in something on the History Channel that showed how time goes much slower on the Brahmaloka. So if you go there, by the time you come back here, it's all long gone, right? Brahma figured that out when he went away for a moment, but a year had passed. So today we will be lecturing on the verse after yesterday's verse and the verse before tomorrow's verse. Does that sound good? That's called a tautology. Indians love those. It's like saying, where is Mohan? Oh, he is somewhere else, but he will be back after some time. Totally true, but totally unhelpful, right? So, the actual verse we will be speaking on is the 9th canto, the 1st chapter, the 9th canto, the 1st chapter is entitled Curse Upon the Yadu Dynasty. Already sounds bad, right? And we are reading from text 9. We'll do like Prabhupada used to do it, one word at a time, and then we will go through the 4 lines, and then you repeat. Ready? Yan Nimitaha Sa Vai Sapo Yadrisho Dvija Satama Katam Ekatmanam Beda Etat Sarvam Vadasva Me Yanimitaha Savaisapo Yadrisho Dvijasatamaha Katam Ekatmanam Beda Etat Sarvam Vadasvame Yan Nimitaha Savaisapo Yadrisho Dvijasatama Katam Ekat Manam Beda Etat Sarvam Vadasvame. Repeat. Vaishnavis? Are they done? I can't hear. Okay, word for word. Now remember, I might ask some trick questions, so you have to pay attention. That's the idea of it, like the 13th canto. Yat nimitaha. Arising by what cause? Sa, that. Vai, indeed. Sapaha, curse. Yadrisha, what kind? Dvijasatama, O purest of twice-born brahmanas. Katam, how? Eka atmanam, of those who shared the same soul, Sri Krishna. Bedaha, the disagreement. Etat, this. Sarvam, all. Vadasva, please tell me. Oh, please tell me to me. Translation. King Parikshit continued inquiring, what was the motive for this curse? What did it consist of? O purest of the twice-born, and how could such a disagreement have arisen among the Yadus, who all shared the same goal of life? Please tell me all these things. Okay, we will repeat it together. King Parikshit continued inquiring, what was the motive for this curse? What did it consist of? O purest of the twice-born, and how could such a disagreement have arisen among the Yadus, who all shared the same goal of life? Please tell me all these things. Purport by the followers of Srila Prabhupada. Ekatmanam means that the Yadus all shared the same opinion, namely that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the goal of their life. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit could not see any obvious reason for such a destructive quarrel among the members of the Yadu dynasty, and he was anxious to know the cause. Interesting in this verse and the purport. First, the question, what is the motive for this curse? 2, what did it consist of? 3, how could such a disagreement have arisen? And then in the purport, it tells us they all shared the same array, so they could not see any obvious reason for such a destructive quarrel among the members of the Yadu dynasty. He was anxious to know the actual cause. Here's what's interesting. We see that there's some quarrels in the material world. And do they all make sense? No. Look at some of the wars in history and how they come about. In World War I, the Archduke of Austria was shot, and somehow that caused a war all over Europe. And then, of course, Hitler told the English, if you give me part of Czechoslovakia, I will give you peace in your time. So you're thinking, well, we have to try for peace. So they gave him a piece of Czechoslovakia, and there was no war, right? There was. You couldn't trust him. So it puts them in a dilemma. You have to know sometimes you can't trust, but you may have to try to negotiate. But you have to negotiate in the proper manner. And someone always takes advantage in these wars. And it usually isn't the average people that get the advantage. In World War II, the Allied countries fought against Germany in Europe and against Japan in the East. America only lost 325,000 lives. with their soldiers. England lost 500,000. How many Indian soldiers died in World War II? Who knows? What? Who knows the answer? Somebody must have gone to school. How many? How many is it? The English lost 500,000 and the Indian soldiers were fighting for the English. How many is it? No one knows? 2.5 million. So that means the Indians weren't fighting for themselves, they were fighting for England. But they lost 5 times as many as the English lost. Now, of course, by the end of that, they had so many trained soldiers that England was a little afraid and let them go free. But you see, what is the sense of some of these conflicts? Vietnam, as it turned out, they thought that the Vietnamese, North Vietnam was attacking them, but it was just weather blips, and so they caused a whole war. After the Trade Center was attacked, America attacked Iraq that had nothing to do with it. So we see that there's so many crazy wars. Even when people try to do it right, they don't get. When I was here in 71, every couple of days, Pakistan would shell India and kill a couple people. And it's not enough to start a war over. And the reason they did that, Pakistan was mad that India, West Pakistan was killing millions of innocent people in Bangladesh. So 10 million refugees came to India. If India sent them back, they would be killed. It was not on India's wish list to get 10 million refugees. But Pakistan was mad. They wanted them sent home. So India did nothing from a few shellings. But then when Pakistan bombed Kolkata, Delhi, and Mumbai, I remember see the bombs dropping. They didn't do a lot of damage, but then India had to retaliate. But they were smart. As soon as they freed Bangladesh, they called a ceasefire and went home. They didn't try to occupy West Pakistan. When they went into Bangladesh, they found that millions of the intelligent people had been killed. And so India invaded the East Pakistan and helped them form Bangladesh. So without India, there would be no Bangladesh. But Bangladesh is not happy with India now. Amazing, isn't it? So it seems that there's so many conflicts. It's like the Native Americans in America. They're called Indians because Columbus thought he went to India, so they would be Indians. But you'd think after 500 years they would figure out they're not Indians. So some tribes fought for the British and some fought for the Americans. Some fought for Confederates and some fought for the Union in the Civil War. But it didn't do them any good. None of them got any benefits. So we see that there's so many conflicts that could have been done without. And what's amazing here is to see that even in the Yadu dynasty, there was going to be a conflict. And this is why I mentioned the idea of the tautology in the beginning, how Indian people say, you say, where is Mohan? Oh, he is somewhere else, but he will be back after some time. The answer doesn't answer the question. It only makes more questions. So here, with the conditions, the questions being answered just make it more puzzling. Why would they have a curse? Why would they want to kill each other? Why is this going on? It has to make us wonder why this goes on in the material world. And we have to see how we can make some sense of this and how it would apply to our own life. Some people conflict over anything, and some people want to be in charge no matter what. And so they're willing to make conflict. So we see here again in these questions, it is rather puzzling how What's the motive for the curse? How could the disagreement arise? So if the disagreement arises, something must be wrong. You would think they would agree, because as it says here, that they shared the same goal of life. So how could they disagree? It's an interesting question to have. But this is why over time we have to be careful. We'll wait for 8 bells. Is that okay? I think it's... So Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gita that in the beginning of creation, he spoke this knowledge to Vivishvan. Vivishvan spoke it to Manu. Manu spoke it to Ikshvaku. My son's name is Ikshvaku, but I'm not Manu. And that the saintly kings understood this knowledge, evam parampara praptam imam rajarishi vidu, that this knowledge was imparted in disciplic succession. So why is it necessary for Krishna to come and speak it again? It's already been departed in disciplic succession and it's passed down. So why is it necessary? Anybody know? Why? Give him a microphone if you have. See if you figure it out. Why is it necessary to speak it again?
Hare Krishna. The knowledge got lost with the time. It got lost.
Yes, the succession is broken, and therefore the science as it is becomes lost. And that's why we're careful to follow Prabhupada's instructions. That's why we read the Sanskrit verses, because then it's very hard to misinterpret it. Like we read the verse, Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Krishna says, Patram is a leaf. Pushpam means meat, right? No, what does it mean? Everybody knows a pushpa is a flower. But if you did away with the Sanskrit and just wrote, Krishna says, offer me water and meat, then you would say, oh, it says right there in Bhagavad-gita. Did this happen in some scriptures? The Bible was written in the Greek, but they don't do like we do. They don't write the Greek and then translate each word. In the Bible, it was written that Jesus gave the people bromide. Bromide means food. So the English people translated that to mean meat. But it doesn't mean meat. It's just like translating pushpam to mean meat. But you won't see in a Bible, they don't show you the Greek. That's the amazing thing. The one governor of Texas, Rick Perry, said that if English was good enough for Jesus, it should be good enough for the Mexicans. But Jesus didn't speak in English. The Bible wasn't written in English. It was translated. And because they don't keep the original alive, it's mistranslated. He didn't say that he gave the people meat. But that's the way they translate it, and that's the justification for eating meat. You can't change it and then decide that the change is the new bona fide. But that's what they do. So the science, over the time, the science as it is lost because the succession is broken. And so we have to be careful not to misinterpret things for our own self-aggrandizement, our own self-satisfaction. Some people say, well, Prabhupada's real instructions are in the missing tapes. That's like the tautology. What do you mean missing tapes? How can you talk about what's in the missing tapes? If there were any tapes that are missing, how can you talk about them? You have to find it. Maybe they could have talked about the missing Brahma Samhita, but Lord Chaitanya found it, so now it's not missing. Now we can quote from it. But what did Prabhupada say? Did he say to us, A, we could argue with each other over everything, no matter what they say, disagree, and we will show our love by that? Or did he say that we will show our love by how we cooperate with each other? Which one was it? There was one magazine called Mad Magazine that did a satire of things. They came up with good ideas. And it said that, what was his name? Alfred E. Newman says, whatever it is, I'm against it. Some people are that way. Even some devotees seem to be that way. Whatever you tell some people, oh, I'm against that. Isn't it? Is it true? Why don't you tell me what you're for? But they seem to be against it. And we see that there is so much conflict in this world and so much disharmony because a few greedy people want the benefits for themselves. They make this processed meat, which already you're killing animals, and the health benefits are very bad. And then they process it to make it worse. Do we need the meat? Who benefits by the meat? The oil companies do. Because if you're not going to kill cows, you don't need to make them fat. It takes 20 pounds of grain to make a pound of beef. The amount of land they use in America to feed animals for meat, if you stopped using that and went totally veg, the same land could produce 160% of our fuel need using things like hemp and switchgrass, and we wouldn't need the oil or the meat. But of course they don't want that because the oil company and the meat companies want to make money. And they're not only, animals don't want to be killed, but the things they add make people sick. But because they want to benefit, they try to convince people that you will die if you don't eat meat. One person came out and he said, I have to admit, I was hired by the meat companies to make up lies about vegetarians. They say that vegetarians' brains shrink and that they will die because they don't get enough protein. And they say all kinds of laws just so people will buy their product. Isn't it? Even the drug dealer only sells drugs to people who want it. So we find there is so much conflict going on by businesses and in this world. So why should it be going on amongst the devotees? So we must be careful in that. And we must be happy in the places where we see that this kind of harmony is going on. Where I see the harmony goes on is when I see several places. Like here, I see that when people come, they come to look for particular devotees because they have a relationship. Plus, it's good that they have made relationship with people over many years, because if you come back every 6 months and new people are here, oh, those people were here in April. It's December now. We have new management. If every time they turn around, someone else is there, and they engage people in nice deity worship. They show them how to chant on beads, and we know how to take care of people, and we see the places like Los Angeles and Juhu that they also support the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, because we each have our personal spiritual life to take care of, and we each have our circle of family and people we influence, and we have our temple. But the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium is what we call our joint venture project. It's something that everybody participates in. When books are sold, the book fund gives part of the money to TOVP. So it's the selling of books does many things. It satisfies the spiritual master. It helps you progress in spiritual life. You meet new friends. You help people learn spiritual life. And you help build the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. It accomplishes so many things at one time. Anytime something can accomplish several things, it's a good advantage. So we have to be thinking ways to do this, not ways to fight for the control. Seems like this must be the age of Kali, the age of quarrel, because people seem to quarrel over all kinds of things, don't they? And you see how the world situation can get worse. And if it can happen even amongst the devotees like the Yadus, then how much easier can it happen amongst others. And that's why we do things like distribute books, because when people get these books, they may be able to, by getting a little Krishna consciousness, they may do some of the right things. And if you present Krishna consciousness as a package, then people may like the idea and they automatically give up meat eating. But in the places where people eat lots of meat, if you just forget about Krishna consciousness and tell them they should just become vegetarians, quite often they think you are trying to take away their rights. So what we try to do is that when we present Krishna consciousness, we're not giving you something that takes away your rights. We're giving you something that gives you benefits. You become free from the entanglement of material desires, which means you become free from the karmic reactions. You eat food that is offered to Krishna, which means that it's healthy. We don't eat the meat and we don't eat the processed food. We take it all from scratch. And so we don't have this kind of problem that people have. They have this cereal where they make all the things different colors, but of course the colors, the dyes are poisonous, and so many things that they do. And this is why Prabhupada wanted us to start farms. You have the farm here for this temple, and Chaupati has the Govardhan Eco Village. America has some farms. South Africa, I go, has very few farms because it's dangerous. Here, the crime is they try to get in your pocket. Sometimes, you have to be careful you put your bag away from the street because they drive by in a motorcycle and take it. But they usually don't shoot you and stab you on the street, which they do in South Africa. So if there's that level of conflict, what we have to do is show that we work for the benefit of all different people. Varnashram Dharma is not the caste system, because in Varnashram Dharma, we learn that whatever our Varna and Ashram are, our purpose is to be of the best service to Krishna and the best service to others. If the politicians and the teachers and the street sweepers and the soldiers and the business people are all thinking how they can serve God and how they can do the best job possible for their customers, does the world become a better place? In the caste system, they're talking, well, my right is this. And if you perform your duty, automatically everyone gets their rights. So that's what the Varna and Ashram is about. But this is why Prabhupada taught us that we show our love by how willing we are to cooperate with each other. I go to many places in the world, and I try to share ideas in each place with things that work in other places. But sometimes those things aren't quite as applicable, and I have to remember that if I go somewhere, if they're doing something a little different than how I could do it, but what they're doing is bona fide, and it's having good results, then the best use of my time is how to encourage them to just keep doing what they're doing, instead of finding fault with everything. You don't want to be like the fault finders, like Ramachandra Khan and Gopala Chapala. I don't think they found anything right. Oh, there's ants, you must be eating sweets, right? Gopala Chapala says, oh, look, it puts the worshiping for Durga outside of Srivas, and then complains that he's a worshiper of Durga. Is that fair? You put the things outside and then blame them for it? That's not fair, is it? I put a bottle of alcohol in someone's car and say, see, I've caught them driving drunk. Does that mean I'm a good person because I caught them? No, it means I caused a problem and I want credit for trying to solve it. That's not the proper use of our time. So the point is here that if even the Yadavas can have this issue, then we must be very careful not to have this issue. We must be very careful. There's only 700 verses in Bhagavad-gita, so they must be important. considering there's 1,000,000 verses in the Bhagavatam on Brahmaloka. So 700 is like less than 1 out of 1,000. So they must be important. You know, Prabhupada spoke at the Rotary Club many times. And you know what the Rotary Club decided their motto should be? You know what their motto is? That speech should be truthful, it should be beneficial, it should be pleasing, not agitating to others, and based on knowledge. Where does that come from? It comes from Bhagavad-gita. Does it sound like a good idea? There isn't any really good argument that speech should be untruthful, and it shouldn't be beneficial, and that it shouldn't be agitating to others. It's pretty hard to come up with an argument against that. So we figure that if the Rotary Club follows that, maybe we should too. We think before we're going to speak something or put it on Facebook, first it has to be truthful. And then is it pleasing? Is it a benefit? And is it not agitating to others? You may have noticed that when some people go on the internet, they don't follow that. Have you noticed that? Some people don't think that. They just let out whatever is there, regardless of whether it's true or whether it's helpful. So we have to follow some of these ideas and realize that we're in agreement that Krishna is the personality of Godhead. And we have to think how we can be of service and work in a group. We don't come and try to take over what's going on, but we have a lot of freedom. Each person can go to their own corner and chant. When you meet new people doing books or bringing to the temple, you have your own way of being friendly to them and encouraging them to come. We have plenty of freedom to express ourselves, but we shouldn't try to be overly free, like you have the freedom to get in a car and drive from here all the way to Kargar. But you don't have the freedom to say, listen, in America, they drive on the right hand of the street side, so I think I should have that freedom too. Your freedom should be like the speech. It shouldn't be agitating to others. Like they say in America, you have the right of free speech. But you don't have the right to say, hey, the building's on fire, the roof is collapsing. You don't have the right to say things that will cause problems for others. So we must be very careful not to cause problems for others, especially devotees. So then the idea in this, another idea in this is that, are there problems in the material world? Are there? But that seems like there are, right? History sort of, people say history repeats itself, but it's actually not true. People do the same action and get the same reaction, right? It's the action that's creating the reaction. It's not history's fault. So what this shows us is that there's always going to be some kind of problem. There's always some kind of conflict. And even amongst the devotees, there can be this. So why can't Krishna create a place where there's no conflict, there's no suffering, there's no old? Why can't he create a place like that? Can he? He does, but it's not the material world, right? It's like you're in the prison for a crime. You say, well, why can't the government create a place where people can roam the street free? They do, but you committed a crime, so you have to stay in this place. We see that when Krishna was in Vrindavan, there was simultaneously problems and yet no problems at the same time. The one woman came, put poison on her breast to kill all the children. And when Krishna sucked her breast, the life was coming out of her. He says, leave me alone, child, leave me alone. She should have thought of that ahead of time, right? But we see in the conflicts that in these things in the material world, we have to try to plan ahead. I think of that when we're reading the Bhagavad-gita. In the very beginning, Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, what did my sons and the Pandus do being desirous to fight? Well, maybe he should have asked about this before the battle started. You know, it's being sized up what assets either side has. And before that, the Pandavas said, why don't we split the kingdom in half? They didn't really deserve it, but if they did this, then there would be no conflict. So Krishna gave them plenty of opportunities. Dhritarashtra is waiting till the last minute to find out. When did Krishna decide to analyze the condition of the Kurus and the Pandavas? Who knows? Right after the government was changed in Mathura. You know how the government was changed in Mathura? Well, first Kamsa had tried so many ways to kill Krishna, and none of the demons worked. The elephant didn't work. The wrestlers didn't work. So is that the time to say that you're going to capture all of Krishna's parents and friends and kill them? If the thieves, if they're fighting a battle and they burst in the guns and they're at you and you've lost, you're okay, now you're all dead. Isn't it time now you surrender, right? Now it's time, if you can't beat them, you're supposed to join them. So then, of course, Krishna jumped on the dais and killed Kamsa. And right after this was done, he told Akrura to go to Hastinapur and analyze the situation between the Pandavas and the Kurus. But we see things happen in Vrindavan, like a big, massive forest fire came. Krishna said, it's a problem, but it's not a problem. If you have a problem and Krishna's there, you don't have a problem. If there's no problems and Krishna's not there, then you do have a problem because it's coming, right? Isn't it? Maybe not now, maybe not today, but problem is coming. So he said, close your eyes, and he sucked up the whole forest fire. It was gone, just like that. That big bird came along. Hear it? That's the Bakasura telling he's come, go just. So he opened his mouth, and Krishna opened it even bigger. Bifurcated, as it's called. So then along came this big snake. Maybe it was a mountain cave. And this thing was like 8 miles long. That's 12.8 kilometers, right? And it smelled funny because his intestines didn't smell good. So this is a problem to enter inside, right? So the cowherd boys went inside. Is this a problem? If you don't have Krishna, it's a problem. Then Krishna went inside. Aghasura closed his mouth. Was that the end of Krishna and the cowherd boys? Because it's just little Krishna, right? But then he expanded himself. And he got so big that Aghasura. So I say, don't bite more than you can chew, right? He choked on it, right? You don't bite something that's too big to swallow, isn't it? So Krishna is too big to swallow. You can go against Krishna. And sometimes Krishna makes them feel like they're winning. Because that's the best way to, when someone does a trick with you, the first thing you do is make them think their trick is working. When Brahma hit all the cows and the cowherd boys, Krishna's pretending like he's confused and doesn't know what to do. Brahma says, oh good, I tricked him. Is that true? No. But if you think the trick worked, if you make them think their trick worked, then your counter trick is even easier to do. So that's what he did. He made them think that their trick was working. But the trick was not working. So we find that, just like Sisupala. He insulted Krishna 99 times, right? Nope, and no reaction, right? One more time couldn't hurt, could it? But it could. And it did. So we realize that if he didn't insult Krishna, there would be no problem. And continuing to insult is making the problem bigger, not smaller. So we find the many instances there in Vrindavan when that big Aristasura bull came along and Krishna just grabbed him and threw him. And the ass demons, they threw them in the tree. All of these could be a big problem, but if Krishna's there, it's not a problem. So what we don't do is that we don't think how we're going to avoid problems. We think how we're going to avoid conflicts. Rupa Goswami says that pure devotional service is unmotivated and uninterrupted. If I go to satisfy my lusty desires, what happens to my devotional service? It's interrupted. What happens if I'm arguing with other people and creating conflict? My devotional service is interrupted. What happens if the big demon comes and I take shelter of Krishna? My service and my serenity is not interrupted. So if we have Krishna, we have everything. If we don't have Krishna, we have nothing. And that's why these things are saying here, is that if even these great souls could have a conflict, then certainly we have to be careful of it. We see in the world there's more reasons people are coming up with to have conflict. And you see quite often the things that people do to solve the problem is that the solution becomes a bigger problem than the problem. Some people feel depressed. They go drink a lot of alcohol and go for a drive. Did that fix the problem? No, now you have several more problems. You don't solve a problem by creating a bigger problem. But we find that governments and people do this. So how do we solve problems? How? We take shelter of Krishna. Because if we have taken shelter of Krishna and we're there to do service, then we don't have a problem. It's Krishna's problem. You say, Krishna, I'm here to do service. You help me out with this. I had times where my life was threatened in South Africa. They were threatening whether to shoot me. That was the thieves. The government said they wanted to throw me out the window to see if I could fly. And if I couldn't fly, whose fault? If I hit the ground, whose fault was it? Mine, obviously. Because if I couldn't fly, it's not their fault I hit the ground. This is the way people think. If they owe you money and you ask for it today, they said, well, you should have asked for it last week when I had it. It's your fault for not asking at the right time. So this is another thing in not making the quarrels, is that we're not afraid to admit any mistakes we make. Of course, we can use, like Krishna says, the deliberate spiritual intelligence and try not to make too many mistakes. But when we do, we should be willing to admit it and to move on. And instead of creating quarrels. It's like it's been discussed several times that Prabhupada says the movement won't be destroyed outside, it'll be destroyed inside by people quarreling. So we have to be happy with what service we get and what spiritual situation we have. We think when we eat food, it's simple food, but it's spiritual food and it's more tasty. Which is better, the chapati that doesn't last very long? Chapati is good on the same day, but a week later, is it good? Do you want to eat those biscuits that are good 10 years later? Because the things they put to preserve it make it very bad for health. So isn't it better we eat tasty prasadam that's all healthy and doesn't have the additives to preserve it. Sure, the stuff that we're going to serve at breakfast won't last for many days, but it's not supposed to last for many days. It's offered to Krishna, we eat it, and we digest it. You don't keep the old prasadam and serve it out a week later, do you? Correct? And they don't put preservatives in it so that it'll stay good, which creates more problems. So, and of course the big problem is they're using 20 pounds of grain to make a pound of beef. If you only use the vegetarian food, it doesn't go bad like that. Things like the atta, the dal, and the rice, until you cook it, it doesn't go bad. You can leave it in a metal tin for 100 years, yes? It's sealed up, it doesn't go bad. But you leave the meat out, it goes very bad. So there's so many indications to eat the proper food by offering. Krishna says what to offer him, and we only eat prasadam. Then we eat karma-free food, we eat healthy food, and because it's low, there is more land left to make more food and to create fuel from. So many problems are instantly solved. But what we do is we present it as part of the Krishna conscious package. Because if they get Krishna consciousness, they get all of that, right? Just like a car salesman. He doesn't try to sell someone a door. Then what do I need a car door for? But he sells them a car, and with it comes a door. Now it makes sense. Where if I bring you a door and say, you need to buy this, what am I going to do with the door? But when it's a package deal, the door coming with the car, so we present the things that are healthy and productive as part of the Krishna conscious package. Just like the salesman, he doesn't sell car parts, he sells the whole car, which includes that. And so we do the same thing. But the best thing is to give someone the manual, which is like Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, I don't want to go over. I hope that added something. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Yes? No question? Yes? No? No question? All right. Hare Krishna. Oh, he has a question. Not too late, because we have to go pass out knowledge that's truthful, pleasing, beneficial.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
कि श्रीमद् भगवद गीता जैसे अपन लोग गुरु परंपरा पढ़ते हैं, जो ज्ञान आप भी बताया आपने कि ज्ञान इसलिए दिया गया कि ज्ञान वो ब्रोकन हो गया था गुरु परंपरा, तो ज्ञान अर्जुन को दिया गया फिर से। तो जैसे हम लोग भगवद गीता में जो गुरु परंपरा जो है वो अर्जुन का लिस्ट में नहीं है, ये हम लोग कौन सा जैसे गुरु परंपरा का जो आया है वो अर्जुन का उसमें नाम नहीं है, तो ये राजर्षियों को परंपरा तो टूटा था ना।
Oh, because that was before. And our disciplic succession is the guru to disciple teaching it. Arjuna did not take disciples. You mentioned in Bhagavad-gita the Brahma Madhava Sampradaya. That's what I told the security police in South Africa when they arrested me. I didn't want to lie to them, but I didn't want to give them any information. So they say, what group you represent? I said, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Madhava Vaishnav Sampradaya. And that tells them the truth, but it doesn't really let them know exactly who I represent, right? There's different disciplic succession too, yes? Yes.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. He has a question here.
Hare Krishna. You said in South Africa they tried to threaten you by shooting and throwing you off the building. Then what did happen after that?
Well, they didn't shoot me or throw me out the window, but I was threatened again. Eventually I was thrown out of the country. At least when they deport you, you're the first one on a plane. But they put you on there with guns and they stand outside in case you try to get off the plane. But these are the risks we take for Krishna. Now I get to go back because the whites were 10% of population and they were the only ones that got to vote. Just like when the British were here, they controlled everything and they were a very small group, but they had all the rights. So it was the same when the whites controlled South Africa. And they told me I would never be allowed. But then they created freedom there, and now there's a black government which has big crime, but they're happy that I come back now. So if we have to preach where it's illegal, people are suffering in some countries like Bangladesh. They make it difficult there. So there's always danger, but at least if we have to be in danger, we should take the danger for Krishna. Hare Krishna.